Welcome back. Before we move into Domain 2, let's lock in the 5 Domain 1 patterns this practice set now builds on. First recap point. Stop_reason is a control signal, not background metadata. If your loop ignores max_tokens, it can exit with a truncated answer and pretend the job is done. Second, message history is the loop's memory. If you skip Claude's assistant turn before appending a tool result, the API sees 2 user messages in a row and rejects the exchange. Third, coordinator architecture depends on the task tool. Multiple task calls create parallel subagents, while fork_session branches one shared investigation into alternative approaches. Fourth, enforcement is selective. Use hooks for safety-critical gates, honor explicit requests for a human immediately, and synthesize multi-issue investigations into one clear response. Fifth, long sessions degrade before they fail. When specific line-level reasoning turns vague, a fresh session with a structured summary beats rereading more files into an exhausted context window. If part 1 helped, give the video a like and subscribe. Those loop rules, delegation patterns, enforcement choices, and context reset signals are the foundation for everything in Domain 2. If part 1 helped, like and subscribe. That keeps the practice series easy to find while you work through every domain. Most tool problems look like model mistakes until you inspect the interface around the model. Domain 2 is about that interface: descriptions, structured errors, scope tool access, MCP configuration, and built-in tool choice. These 10 questions test the design decisions that make Claude predictable instead of lucky. Customer Service Tool Suite. The 5-element descriptions already drove misrouting from 30% down to 2%. Now the team is debating one more rename for consistency. Would that actually help, or just create churn? Take a moment. The rename is not worth it. Descriptions are the primary selection mechanism, and once purpose, inputs, outputs, when to use, and when not to use are all explicit, the name becomes secondary. At 2% misrouting, you are near the floor for a probabilistic system. Renaming now adds code churn without adding meaningful signal. Now the system prompt trap. Renaming analyze_request fixed the original bias, but a later prompt said to carefully extract the customer's intent. Why would that bring the same misrouting back? Take a moment. Because the keyword collision returned. The new prompt introduced extract, which now lines up with extract_data. That reactivates the same selection bias under a different word. The lesson is bigger than this one rename. Tool naming and prompt wording have to be reviewed together as one system, not as isolated edits. Error handling in multi-agent systems. A web researcher times out, retries locally, succeeds, and sends back results. The coordinator never hears about the transient failures. Is that correct behavior? Take a moment. Yes. Local recovery is exactly what you want for transient errors. Timeouts and brief service instability should be retried inside the subagent, and only unresolved failures should travel upward with partial results and alternatives. If you tell the coordinator about every resolved timeout, you clutter its context with noise that never changes the decision. Same scenario family, but now every retry fails. The subagent returns an empty success object, and the coordinator tells the user no research was found. What anti-pattern is hiding in that response? Take a moment. That is silent suppression. The failure was disguised as an empty success, so the coordinator could not tell the difference between searched and found nothing versus could not search at all. The correct response is a structured partial failure that says what failed, what was attempted, what partial results exist, and what alternatives are still available. Tool distribution and configuration. The synthesis agent keeps paying a 3-hop coordination penalty just to verify simple facts. The proposal is to hand it the full web_search tool directly. Does that solve the problem cleanly? Take a moment. Not cleanly. Full web_search is too powerful for a synthesis role and invites role creep, because the agent may start researching instead of synthesizing. The right answer is a scoped verify_fact tool for simple lookups, while deeper research still routes through the coordinator. That preserves least privilege without keeping the expensive round trip on every tiny check. Now the configuration side of the same domain. The team finds a hard-coded GitHub token inside project-level MCP config and debates moving everything to user-level config versus keeping the shared file and reading the secret from an environment variable. Which design actually balances security with team sharing? Take a moment. Keep the configuration project level and expand the secret from the developer's environment at runtime. That way the team still gets the shared GitHub MCP setup when they clone the repo, but the actual token never lands in version control. Moving everything to user-level config fixes the secret leak, but quietly breaks tool sharing for every new teammate. MCP tool selection. Claude keeps choosing built-in grep over semantic_code_search, even when the query is conceptual and semantic search should win. What is the most likely reason? Take a moment. The likely cause is description quality, not raw capability. Community MCP tools often ship with minimal descriptions, while grep already has a richer built-in explanation. Claude selects primarily from those descriptions, so the fix is to add explicit CLAUDE.md guidance that says when semantic_code_search should be preferred and why grep is the wrong fit for conceptual queries. Capability only matters if Claude can recognize when to use it. That is why better descriptions beat stronger tools so often on the exam. Built-in tool choice. The developer wants test files, but they search for the word describe and pull in a false positive from a comment. What should they have done instead? Take a moment. Use glob. The task is finding files by a naming convention, not searching file contents. Grep looks through text, so it can miss tests that use it or test instead of describe, and it can also hit comments that happen to contain the same word. Glob cleanly answers the real question because the real question is about the path pattern. If the target is the file name, think glob first. Grep is for contents, not for naming conventions. Edit tool usage. The agent wants to rename process refund across one file, but the plain edit call fails because the old string appears 8 times. What is the right next move? Take a moment. Use replace_all. This is exactly the case that parameter was designed for. One symbol, one file, many occurrences. It is cleaner than 8 separate context-specific edits, lighter than reconstructing the whole file with write, and safer than reaching for a bash substitution when a dedicated editing tool already expresses the intent directly. When the change is a file-wide symbol rename, replace_all is the built-in that matches the job exactly. Final question. A Jira MCP server exposes tools, but no resources, so the agent burns 4 or 5 calls just guessing valid issue types and project keys. What would eliminate that guessing? Take a moment. Resources solve it. A resource can expose the catalog of available project keys, issue types, priorities, and components before the first tool call happens. That turns the agent from guess and retry mode into informed selection mode. Hard coding examples and prompts or wrapper tools can work temporarily, but they go stale and reduce flexibility. Visibility beats guessing in MCP systems. Now let's lock the Domain 2 decision framework and hand off cleanly into Part 3, multi-agent coordinator patterns. Here's the Domain 2 frame to lock in. Start with description quality. Recover locally instead of hiding failures. Scope tools to roles. Share MCP configs safely with environment variables, and use resources to eliminate guessing. Then keep built-in tool choice simple. Glob for names, Grep for contents, and edit with replace_all for file-wide renames. Up next is Part 3, multi-agent coordinator patterns. So watch the next video while these contrasts are still fresh.